session. Very, very important topic. Let's start the discussion. Are you able to see my screen? Let me know. Okay, good. So Shiv Shankar, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's start. So now what is constraint in SQL Server? Compulsory interview question. Okay, let's start. So first of all, why we need to be have a constraint in SQL Server. So what is the idea behind the having the constraint in SQL Server? That first you need to be understand. Okay. So now let me open my SQL Server. Let me check my services. Okay, already it's running. Okay, good. So open my SQL Server Management Studio. So what is constraint? First of all, first we need to understand why we need to be have a constraint. Okay, why we need a constraint. See guys, see every topic. See what is see. I'm first time checking with the reasons. I'm not starting. Directly not starting. What is constraint? First time discussing. Why we need it. That is I'm first time discussing. So let's start understand that what is the importance in the constraint in our SQL Server. Okay. Suppose I have a table. Okay. Yesterday we have created, right? So what is my table I have? Let me go to here. Open, connect. Okay, good. So let me open that query. So this is my batch. Let me select the database. Okay. So yesterday I have created the table, right? Select the star from table 1. Okay. First understand the why we need to be have a constraint. Okay. So this is the my table 1. Okay. So tell me one point. Let's suppose you are creating the table. Let's suppose you are creating the project like something like, Aadhaar card related kind of project. Example, I'm telling you. Okay. Suppose you are creating a very important project. Okay. So in that project, your mobile number is very mandatory, because see why the mobile number column is mandatory is, we see all the transactions, whatever you do, suppose you are going to be checking, whatever you are going to be do, everything is you are going to be sent the notification from the mobile number only. Okay. So that is the reason your mobile number data is mandatory. Understood what I'm saying? So then if your mobile data, your mobile column is mobile, your column is there, right? If let's suppose for example I am inserting one record, insert, right? Okay. So now you understood that why the mobile number is important, because see without mobile number you cannot expect anything, because mobile number is mandatory. Let's suppose you do any kind of, suppose you are going to be login something, mobile number is mandatory. If you forget password, it is going to be useful. Suppose you are going to be build something, you will get every notification in the mobile number. So this column is compulsory, mandatory. So now you know that this is the very, very important column. You must be have some mobile number, right? Now let's try to be understand what is the problem, why we need to be having constraint. Okay. Suppose I'm going to be insert some data into this table. Okay. So insert into table 1. Okay. So values. Suppose, this, remember this point, this is the backend. So wait a second. Let me open the pen, understand. See, this is your, it may be any application, it may be console application, or it may be WinForm application, or it may be ASP.NET application. this application, your data is going to be come to the database. This is your actual database, SQL Server. Okay, this is your SQL Server. Okay, so the point what I'm saying is your data is going to be come from the your application. Your application, in this application only it is going to be come to the database. So the bottom line what I'm saying is, even your application is like, if you are working with a console application or Windows application or a web application, ASP.NET web application, so you are going to be connect the only these data types, SQL Server data types. Okay, so here you are going to be capture the user information and you are going to be stored into the SQL Server. Okay, suppose for example, you are now whatever that the data it's coming. So this is the data. Sometimes the user did not enter any kind of data to and the pass the empty data to this SQL Server table. Then what is going to be happen? Suppose this data is, so I told you, right, this data is coming from the SQL Server. The SQL Server data is going to be come from the application. That is, it may be console application, it may be Windows application, it may be web application. Okay, now let me insert some data. So id equal to, I'm going to be insert as a 8. Okay, I'm going to be give some name here. I'm going to be take the name as test user, some name. Okay, so now let's suppose user did not enter any mobile number. Example, user did not enter any mobile number and he is given the department is ID5. Okay, so now he is going to be insert the data. Okay, so the bottom line and what I'm saying is, this data is not came, the empty, that is null is came from the application, and this data is going to be passed to the SQL Server. So now it is going to be executed the data. So see here, so now let me do the select star from the table. This is the problem. What is the problem? Can you understood what is the problem, Vinita? Yes sir, fast. What is the problem? Hello. I have inserted the data, but what is the problem? What is the problem in this insert statements? I inserted the data, but what is the problem? Shiv Shankar, what is the problem? So the bottom line, what I'm saying is, mobile number, suppose if your mobile number is null, what is going to be happen? Lot of problems. So whom I'm going to be send the notification? Suppose example, this is your bank project you are creating. Okay, so now this is, let's suppose think like that, this is the bank table. Now think like that, if your mobile number is empty, then what is going to be happen? Let's suppose you are doing the any kind of ATM transactions here or anything, you are not getting any SMS notification. It's very big problem. So your mobile, though, so the point here is, your mobile data, whatever the column is there, it's a mandated. Then what we need to do? What I need to do? So that is the reason you have the constraints. You understood why we need a constraint? So what is this constraint? It is going to be do, it is going to be check, boss, what before going to be insert into the database. So your constraints are going to be cross check that whatever the user inserting into the data, is that a valid data or not? Before doing that insert statement, so it is going to be cross check whatever the user inserting the data, is that the data is a valid or not? You understood what I'm saying? Yes sir, Vinita, Shiv Shankar. So your constraints are very, very important. So you are going to be cross check, in your database, you are going to be cross check. You are going to be cross check whatever that user do inserting the data. Is that the data is a valid data or not? Okay, so that's the reason we have a constraints in SQL Server. Interview going to ask you the question, guys. What is going to be asked? Why we need to be have a constraint? So you need to be clearly tell that, boss, in my table, I am going to be cross check whatever that the date. I am going to be put some kind of conditions. So that's what your constraints. I am going to be put some kind of constraints, some conditions to the table. If user does not inserted some column data, then I'm going to be throw, error. He cannot able to insert. You understood what I'm saying? He cannot able to insert the record. I'm going to be sent some throw error message to him. Boss, you are inserting, but this is the problem. Insert properly the data. So before going to be making the insert statement, it is going to be cross check that whatever you have giving the data, is it a proper data? Is it a valid data? Is it a whatever we are required, what we are expecting in that column? Is that the data is matched or not? That kind of things, that's the reason. So who is going to be do all these things? So your constraints are going to be help you out to do all the operations. Okay, so now this is how this is, that is the most important for you. The constraints going to be play very important role in SQL Server. It is going to be cross check that whatever the user doing that operation, is it a valid or not, especially when you are doing the inserting into the table. Okay, now, so how many types of constraints are there in SQL Server? Now you understood that why we need a constraint. Now the next question is, what are the constraints are there in SQL Server? The first is not null constraint. Not null constraint. Second is check constraint. The third is not null constraint, check constraint, and you have what else you have? Check, not null, and next is unique key constraint. The fourth is primary key. Okay, the fifth is foreign key. Sixth is, what is the sixth one? Not null, check constraint, unique key. Let me cross check. I forgot actually. Sorry for that. So let me cross. I think range constraint. Wait a second. Constraint in SQL Server. Just give me a check. Not unique constraint. Already we discussed, right? We have totally 6 constraint, guys. Default, check, primary key, foreign key, check, default. Okay, sorry, default constraint. Default constraint. Okay, so these all the 6 constraints are there in SQL Server. Okay, so first we are going to discuss about the not null constraint. Okay, what is not null constraint? What is going to be do? And after that, check constraint, unique key constraint, primary key constraint, foreign key, and default. Okay, so I will put the default constraint in the third place. Okay. So now let's start discussing each and everything. Okay. Very important, guys. All these things are very important. Okay. So first, let me try to understand what is null, not null constraint. Any column in the table, any column in table, when you're doing that insert statement, it is going to be cross-checked. Okay. So suppose if you do the, create the constraint, boss, in this column, I don't want to be insert any null. So you are going to be create a not null constraint. You understood what I'm saying? I am going to be creative a not null constraint on particular column. Suppose example in the, let's take about our example, previous example. Mobile number is there. I am going to be creative a not null constraint. When I create any not null constraint on this column, If I try to be insert the null, I'm going to be throw the error. That constraint, it is going to be throw the error, boss. You cannot insert the null in this column. You must be insert some value. So because you have created the constraint on this column, you cannot, after creating the constraint on this particular column, you cannot insert the null values. Is it clear? Is it your understanding what I'm saying? Shiv Shankar, Vinita, fast.
Yes, sir.
Very, very important. Very important. It's all the interview questions. What is null? What is constraint? Each and every constraints you will get the interview questions. Okay, let's start how to create the not null constraint. So let me. So now I'm going to be create. So wait a second. Let me take okay. Let me take the online all these things because I don't want to be write all the queries. So see here, I will get all these things. Okay. See here example. Okay, I'm going to create this table. Okay, constraint first, constraint demo 1. Okay, so this is my ID. Okay, first I'm going to be check that without not null, and then after that null constraint. Okay, no, without not null, without without not null constraint. Okay, so I'm going to be create one table. So create the constraint demo 1. Okay, execute it. See here, I have created this table. Okay, now let me insert the record. Insert into constraint demo 1. Okay, values. So what are the columns I have? I have the ID comma name. Okay, so now I'm going to be give the ID as a null, and I'm giving the some name. Suppose I'm giving the name as a test. So I'm able to insert null or not? Hello. Yes, sir.
Yes.
See here. Wait a second. Okay, let me insert this record. 1. Take the insert test to 2. So like this. So I have inserted the 2 records. Okay. Let me cross check. Select star from constraint demo. So check this one. See, sir, how many nulls are there? 2 nulls are there. Are you able to see this? So I'm see, if you don't have any constraint on this column, you can directly insert the null. There is no problem. Okay. So now I'm going to be create a not null constraint on this column. Okay. Suppose I'm going to be drop this table, drop table, this table. Okay. So you see here how to create the constraint. There is a 2 ways. Okay. I can wait a second. Syntax I will tell you. So actually here it is the is not mentioned the any syntax. Wait a second. Not null constraint. See here. See everything you will get in the Google, guys. First you understood the concept. Understanding the concept is most important. Okay. So syntax for not null constraint. See here, I will get everything you will get in the Google. The only point is what you are going to be searched, that is most important. So this is the here, there is no syntax is there, not null constraint. Okay. No. It should need to be have some, syntax actually. So let's see here, any syntax is there. Integrate not null directly is there. Okay, wait a second. Something I need to be have. Strength with constraint name. Actually, I'm checking that proper name. Wait a second. Not null is there. Not null. Okay, no problem. Leave it, no problem. Directly you create it. Okay. So now I'm going to be creating not null. See here. So this is how I'm going to be create the constraint. Okay. So select this one and just execute it. Okay. Command completed successfully. Okay. Constraint. Wait a second, guys. Constraint structure syntax. Constraint syntax. Actually, I'm checking the constraint syntax. Not null constraint primary key. See, actually, I want to be give the add the see. This is what I want. Constraint not null. Okay, no. I want to be give the name to the constraint. Actually, I'm not seeing here where is the proper naming. Constraint name of the constraint not null. Okay, let's try to be give like this. Not null constraint as constraint name. Okay, so here I will table one, suppose table one. Okay, ID. It's not taking. Wait a second. As is not there. Okay, leave it, no problem here. Constraint names later we'll check it. Okay. So now I have created the not null constraint. Okay. So suppose I'm going to be insert the null value. What is the problem? It is clearly telling the message, boss cannot insert the value null into column ID. Table column does not accept the null value. So this is what your constraint. So is it clear? Yes, sir. So this is what your not null constraint. Okay. So it is not null constraint. What is going to be do? It is not going to be allowed to insert the null values in that column. So my doubt is there. Can I insert this one? I'm not inserting null value. I'm inserting. Can I insert the empty value? Vinita, I have the not null constraint. Can I give the empty value? Shiv Shankar. Shiv Shankar. See, I'm not giving any value. Can I do it like this? Vinita, Shiv Shankar. Are you there? Just give me the answer. See, I am not giving any value. I'm just giving the empty. So my question is, if I try to be insert this statement, can I get a, is it going to be insert or can I get the same error message? Why? I'm giving empty, boss. I'm not giving the null. That's okay, but I'm not giving any values here. You understood what I'm saying? So I will get a error or I'm going to be insert. See the understand this point. Empty value and null both are not equal. Remember this point. Now you remember when you get the interview questions, you need to give the answer. So nulls always null. Remember this point. So empty value is different. So bottom line, what I'm trying to say, null is not equal to empty. Both are different. Okay. Null is not equal to empty. Null is different and the single quote is different. Okay. This is most important. Interview going to be confused to you. So yes, you can insert only your not null constraint only. It will not accept the null values. That's it. But remaining and not except null, it is going to be accept any values. Okay. So let's go to the other constraint. Okay. Any doubts? Is it clear? Yes, fast. Next is we are going to discuss about the check constraint. So what is your check constraint going to be do? Check constraint going to be checked. Suppose you have the salary column. Example I'm telling you. So it is going to be cross-checked. Let's suppose I want minimum my salary would be 5,000 rupees. 5,000. Okay. So I see, suppose I have a column calling, suppose I'm creating the employee table. Okay. Suppose I'm creating the employee table. Okay. I have, let's suppose I have the, column called salary. Okay. Now I want to be cross-check that in at least in the salary 5,000 minimum is there or not. So how to do this thing? If minimum 5,000 is not there, I'm going to be send the alert to them. Before, let's suppose instead of 5,000, somebody is going to be inserted the null value. Null is not, suppose 2,000 he inserted. So let's suppose I have a company, my minimum salary, even any of the employee, his minimum salary is 5,000. So now before the inserting itself, I want to be cross-check whatever that I'm getting that record. So is that I will going to be shocked whatever that the value I'm inserting into the particular column. So my value is that the greater than 5,000 or not. You understood? Yes, sir. So how I'm going to be do this thing? So your check constraints are going to be help you out. So it is going to be cross check. Suppose example I'm going, this is the example 1. Example 2. Suppose example I told you, right, mobile number, how many characters are there in mobile number? 10 characters are there. Suppose in mobile number somebody is given the only 9 character. So I am going to use check constraint. So is that I have the 10 character or not? Otherwise I'm going to be throw error. Boss, you have given the 9, because 1 character if you not give, again it's a problem. You have a not null. But let's suppose this is your mobile number, right? You have given the 9 digit. Not null is not there, but this is also a data. But is it a right data or wrong data? Wrong. Even your mobile number is not a 10 character, then again it's a problem. You understood what I'm saying, Vinita? So that's the reason I have the check constraint. So my check constraint are going to be help me out the specific conditions. So suppose my value is greater than 5,000 or not. My characters are greater than 10 characters or not. Like this kind of things you are going to be useful in your columns. Okay. Let's go how to use the check constraint. Let's check it. See here, example. See, even age is there. Suppose I want to be insert, greater than the age is greater than the 18 plus. Suppose you are creating the voter ID, application. Okay. Voter ID. What is the mandatory age for the, let's suppose you are creating the driving license application. Okay. So what is the mandatory age? 18 plus. If you're not like 18 plus, you cannot use the driving license application. Right? Let's suppose you are creating the driving license request form. Okay. Suppose you are applying the job, but you don't have a age, proper age, then you cannot apply the, for the driving license. Is it correct or not? So what I need to do? Let's suppose user inserted the database. Okay. Date of birth. From that date of birth, I'm going to be, cross check. His, date is, below 18. he cannot apply the driving license. So how I am going to do it? With the help of this check constraint. So I'm going to be create example like this. Yes sir, fast. You're every clear, right everyone? Vinita, very good. If you have any doubts, immediately let me know. Okay, so see here. So I'm going to be create this constraint. So first drop this table, execute it. So I'm going to be create the student. Okay, suppose I'm creating the table called driving license. Okay, driving license application. I'm table creating ID not null, name not null, age I'm giving as a greater than the 18 plus. If it is 18 is there, he is able to apply the my driving license. Suppose I'm going to be create this one, executed successfully. What is the problem? So this is not int 6 is not okay. Execute it. Yes, executed successfully. Suppose I want to insert into driving. Copy this table, paste values. ID I'm going to give the one, name I'm going to be give some name Ali. Suppose I'm giving my age is 17. Okay, let's me try to insert. So what is the problem? Check constraint. It is not allowing me. If I give the 18, see here I'm able to insert. Is it clear, sir? No doubts, right? So this is how you are going to be use your check constraint. Let's go to the other constraint that is called default constraint. So what is this default constraint will do? Suppose you are not giving any data to your this column, any column. So what is your default constraint will do? Suppose you are not giving any data to the particular column. So by default, some data is going to be inserted. Suppose example, you are creating that application, Indian application you are creating. Indian application. Suppose you are creating the application for Indian. Okay. So you have the suppose you have the country. So if anybody is not given the country, what you are going to be stored? You understood what I'm saying? Suppose you are creating the project for the your Indian people only. Let's suppose. Okay, you are created purely for the Indian kind of students. Okay, suppose student is not yet selected the any not given the any data for the country, then what you are going to do? By default you are going to be insert as a India. You understood what I'm saying, Vinita? Hello, Vinita, are you there? Clear or not? Shivshankar. Vinita, are you there? Okay. Let's see how to create the default constraint. So this is the syntax. Let me create this one. See, we can give for the default for anything. See here, he given the default for the some age. Okay, so I don't want to be give the age. I will try for the different thing. So I will take it as a country. Okay, here varchar 20. Default I'm going to be give as India. Okay, so let me, this is wrong actually. Let me insert it. Default demo. my table name. Okay. Select it, execute it. Okay. So now I want to be insert the record. So suppose I did not given any data. Okay. So this is default demo, right? Wait a second, let me copy this one. Okay, see here. So now I'm giving the empty data here. Let me insert. Okay, empty also some data, right? Suppose I did not given, wait a second, like this actually. So you're giving some data actually. So suppose, wait a second. Let me check null also some data, right? Okay. Wait a second. Here I want to be mentioned as ID comma ID comma country name country. Okay. Sorry. Don't give the country. Let's send up. Here values. See here, I did not given any data for the country. Okay. So remove this. Okay, I did not given any data. Only have given the names and name and ID. Insert it. So I did not given the any data to the country. So what is happening? By default, the data is came. Is that clear? Null means null. It is going to be insert. Null also value, right? Empty also value. Null also value. If you did not mention, if you did not given any data, understood what I'm saying? See here, I did not inserting any data in the column. In that case, the default value it will come. Suppose if you give the empty means empty, it will come. If you give the null means it will come null. I told you, right? Null is not equal to empty, and null is not equal to default also. Remember this point. Is that clear? Clear, right, Shiv Shankar? So these three are very important. So that's it about today's session. Tomorrow we'll discuss the remaining constraints. Okay. The first is not null constraint. We have taken that not null constraint. What is not null constraint? It is going to be cross check that if you try to, if it is going to be cross check that are you going to be insert any null value? If it is null value, then it is going to be throw error. Boss, you cannot insert the null values. The second is a check constraint. Check is you're giving some condition before you see you are creating the constraint. You understood what I'm saying? You are creating the constraint. So that means that you are validating your data on the table. Boss, if you try to be, if you create the constraint, then when you try to be insert into the data, it is going to be validate. Okay, so that is what your check constraint. It is going to be cross check. Is that the minimum value these things are or not? So it is going to be cross check. Example is like example we have seen age. Okay, or you can create like a salaries also. That example too. Okay, and as I told you, right, mobile number character also. Suppose you are anybody is inserting the 9 character, then you can throw the error message. Okay, so now the third one is default. Default is different. Remember, guys, null, if you try to be insert mean null is different, default is default means you are not at all inserting any data in that particular column. Don't confuse with empty. Empty is different, default is different. Remember, default means you are not at all inserting any data on the column. If you insert empty, it is going to be take the empty also. Remember this point. If you insert the empty and you cannot expect the default value, that is wrong. Don't confuse. If you are trying to be insert the nulls and if you expect the default value, that is also wrong. Null and empty also some values only. Yes, are clear? So don't confuse all these things. So that's it about today's session. Okay, tomorrow we're going to be discuss the remaining constraints like a unique key constraint, primary key constraint, and foreign key constraint. This is most important. 100% you will get all these questions. Okay. So any questions so far? Why we need? So we discuss about why we need to be have a constraint. What is the important about the constraint? Okay, and then we discuss about the three important constraint: not null, check, and default constraint. Okay. Yes, I'm going to be wait a second. I'm going to be share you the links. You can go through this link. You check any website, no problem. Okay. So this one looking that's fine, no problem. You check with this website. Let me share. Any doubts, Shiv Shankar? Uh, Vinita, do you have any doubts? So I want you to be practice all these things. So guys, take a seriousness, and whatever I'm giving the assignment, that is for you only. If you do the assignments, then only you are going to be perfect in that concept. Remember this point. If you don't do the assignments, remember the point, we are wasting our time. Simply, I'm saying only one point. Assignments are mandatory. Okay. And I want screenshot all the three constraints, whatever we discussed. Vinita and Shiv Shankar, send me the all this, not create one table, separate tables, create the three tables and take the different scenarios. Create the screenshots and insert and do the constraint and send me the screenshots. Okay, so that's it about today's session. Wait a second, let me stop this thing.